Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan. And I just want to point out the contrast, for people who are watching, the contrast between both our camera quality. You look like, like what you expect, like, modern, kind of like, I say modern podcast, not like an LA podcast where everyone's in like fucking like hoodies no one's ever worn previously before that recording, sitting on like a couch with a prime or whatever the fuck. But you have a standard setup. Me, I look like this is like the last known picture of this guy in like an A24 movie. Like, like I have like this, I have like a button up, my hair looks all not intentionally, it looks kind of like sort of like 70s pushed away side. There's like wood cabin kind of look right here, so it's just
like you're up in the attic and you're like making this final recording, but like, they're coming in, they're gonna break in, they're gonna find me, I gotta get this out here, you guys gotta know what's going up. Yeah. Literally like Tom Cruise and fucking like American Made, like when he's doing like those like video recordings at the end, be like, the CIA's coming after me, I made way too much fucking money off selling drugs. I pissed off Pablo Escobar, oh fuck.
Yeah, either that, like, I like to think, because I know, like, well, I mean, Tom Cruise, I mean, that's nice of you to say, but let's be honest, I know that. I definitely don't want to be the real life guy, because I know that guy was, like, not Tom Cruise.
No, so. he was definitely a little bit like, he was enjoying the extra food he could get. Let's just say that.
That movie, that guy probably, if he knew that, like, hey, you know what? Yeah, well, actually, first off, when did that guy die? When did he die?
Well, he died in like 80, let's just say mid-80s.
Mid-80s. Well, I don't know. Maybe if Top Gun was out by now, but by then, like, all right, don't worry. But right before he died, like a little flash from the future, like the guy from Top Gun is going to play you in your life story. Like, oh, all right.
Okay, I guess that works. I thought Nick Nolte was going to play me, but that's okay.
Live fast, die young. Well, not die that young, but live fast. And Tom Cruise may play you like 40 years down the line. All right, whatever.
Well, in the original version of that movie, Dennis Hopper plays him.
Oh, there's another version of that movie?
Yeah, there's one that's it's like hard to find. I literally had to buy it from one of those sites that like people put together in a sense like bootleg movies or whatnot. I think it was made for HBO movie, one of those. But yeah, literally it's like 1990 it came out and Dennis Hopper plays it.
It is always kind of interesting when you come across these maybe it's bootleg, but like kind of like independent movies. Because a lot of times there's a crime story that comes out. There's like, here's like the Ridley Scott retelling, or here's the Steven Spielberg or whoever, and then like, or even Tony Scott even. But then you're like, here's the one that hasn't really found a buyer yet, but it's about here on streaming. like that's always kind of interesting when that happens. Like, but Dennis Hopper playing that I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, no, and it's cool. It's a cool version. It's not as good as American Made, but it's still an interesting alternative one. As I said, it's made for TV, so it's a little bit less. And that's a lot of times the reason why some of those made for TV movies, it's almost like it came out on HBO and maybe there was a VHS copy and we never re-released it past that point.
I actually, minor confession, but it's not that, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. I didn't know about this, but I have a distant relative who actually got into some crime and some years back, and they actually made one of these movies about it. And I know it's kind of like, this happened. What movie is it? Like, I don't really want to say because I don't really know the guy. I haven't really seen him since we were little kids. And even then, I've like, oh, that guy? That guy, really? So it's like, I don't want to say like, oh, this cousin I totally know super well. Like we used to hang out all the time. Like he has a movie. That movie is, but like, the movie wasn't that good. I'll be honest with you. But it was basically, I'll just say this. It's about like people that were doing like a weed running heist through like more like the, more like northern part of the country, northern part of the country, I can say. Mm-hmm. And the movie itself was obviously really low budget, but it was just kind of interesting watching that movie. And then like, hey, that's that one kid that came over a few times when you were like 4 or 5 or 6. And I'm like, oh, that was that guy? Yeah. Well, it was like a very distant part of the family, kind of like at some point, like his parents split and he went with the side of the family that wasn't actually blood, that kind of thing. So then watching this movie, I was just watching like, oh, okay, I remember we played Sonic the Hedgehog one time. All right, and then like, I remember we were playing like, maybe it was Mario 64 shit, so like, just sitting there watching this movie about this guy who for a minute was like it was kind of like one of those burnout fast kind of like rise and fall stories. You made a lot real fast and then kind of came crashing down all at once. And there's a couple articles about him back when it happened. But he's okay now, apparently reformed and doing good. So good for him. But it was just one of those things like first time you hear about that guy in a while. And then all of a sudden, like, here's his movie. Oh, shit, it's on streaming.
Yeah, that's always an interesting one right there. It's like the only thing I have that's like in a similar thing is I have like one of those, like, I believe it's a second cousin, maybe third cousin, one of those kind of hard to like pinpoint on like what the relative is, just related somehow. And like one of the few dudes who, in the family who like, oh, he went to jail a couple times. And there was one time where I think might have been like my mom and some of the other relatives, they went to go visit him and stuff. And then he was like, oh yeah, he's like, if you look over there, that's Tex right there from the Charles Manson murders.
Oh, like, you don't say.
Yeah, they're there. He's here hanging out too.
Was he like just in the visitation room or something, or?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, that's like he was in the same whatever prison as Tex.
So he just kind of leaned in. If you look over there, so like, was he still having some like Manson's leftovers come by? Like, well, Charlie's in a different state or something. So we're here with.
Yeah, so here's I'm not too sure like what more, but it's just more like one was like, an iconic figure.
Charlie's side scabs, yeah.
Yeah, the guy who did the dirty work.
Still only gets the leftovers.
Yeah, exactly.
Was Charlie actually? Was he one of the people? Because every so often you hear about like serial killers or something that like get like a bunch of like psycho fan mail about wanting to marry him and wanting to fuck him. I know. In person he had, but during the trial, did Charlie have any of that? I say Charlie like he's cool, but
yeah, probably something like that. I mean, he was still writing songs for people.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he still kind of was doing his things like, I'm going to be in the fucking music industry. I don't give a fuck.
One way or the other.
I was supposed to be the sixth Beach Boy.
I'm just imagining them all lined up, looking like good boys, and there's the one guy with the swastika on his forehead, like just like zoned out into space.
That's the thing is, I mean, I felt like the Beach Boys. It's like that was part of that thing. Was like, guys, I don't know if this is going to work for our image.
Well, apparently, I mean, I never looked into it. I just am going off of the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood book, which takes liberties, but at the same time, like, I'm guessing it pulled from real history. When they say like, oh yeah, the Beach Boys only kind of hung around him because he kept on bringing girls and weed over all the time. And after a while, a bunch of the dirty hippies starting fights and start stealing shit. Like, all right, get the fuck out of here. You know what? We were and he was just basically using everything just to like, he built a cult because he's going to be a rock star. So.
he's like, I'm going to get successful somehow. That's all it really was. They could take away my rock star dreams, but they can't take away, my partying lifestyle.
Yeah, they can take away that one song I wrote, but fuck. So, I don't even know what song it was.
I can't remember. I feel like I'd have to look it up, and then you'd probably be like, "Oh, that song."
I feel really bad if it's like a song like God Only Knows, like an actual really good song that everyone likes. Yeah. Like, oh, he did that? Fuck. Okay, because I know there's a whole thing about separating the art from the artist, but that is one where I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
Well, it is true. At first, God only did know. He wasn't lying there.
It's multi-layered and different ways of looking at it.
But yeah, what's kind of funny is that you mentioned Tom Cruise in the beginning. We're talking about American Made. Last night there was this. They actually had this wrestling event, pro wrestling that is, in Tuolumne City of all places. So no one knows where that is, but
Jesus.
But yeah, but I mean, it was like. And it was one of those ones, like, I saw the signs pop up, I'm like, dude, I want to go see this. I don't care if it's like, you know, I've seen Billy Bob wrestling in, like, the South. Let's see what that will be like in here. And now, granted, it wasn't like it was Tuolumne. It's not like it was like they got a bunch of Tuolumne locals to go up there and wrestle. Well, that would be interesting in itself. I mean, I've seen that happen at they do a Lumber Jubilee in Tuolumne, which is always very interesting because I remember even me and Josh were talking about, we're like, dude, we should make a fucking, like, documentary on this because this is unlike anything else out there. It's literally, you got a bunch of guys, it's a chainsaw, like, Fast and the Furious kind of thing where, like, literally people come up there with their fucking souped up chainsaws and they, like, saw logs in, like, seconds. You know, but then they throw in a bunch of other stuff. Like, you know, they got, like, arm wrestling. They got fucking boxing where, like, it's just literally the local blue collar guys just go up and just start punching each other on top of a log.
Just manifest.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I like how Josh is pointing out. He's like, you notice how there's, like, girls that show up and they're like dressing up as, like, cosplay, like hot, like, you know, logger ladies.
I'm just imagining, like, if you can't participate in, like, the arm wrestling contest or the bare knuckle boxing or some shit like that, they make you, like, tuck your, like, fucking dick and balls behind your legs and you have to walk around like that. The rest, like, you're not a man, you gotta hide that shit. Here you go, peaches, you know, and they just give you, like, here, we don't want you to have anything too hard now. They give you a Mike's Hard Lemonade or something like that.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Cosmopolitan, you know. You have a little pink like wristband, like, you know, like, now that's the only thing that she can have, and you better make sure she's walking like a lady now.
You know, but yeah, like the best part too is just like when they bring out those fucking chainsaws that are like, you know, the guy's been fucking like souping this thing up like all year round. There was a dude that like, okay, like the average guys were sawing through at like 3 to 5 seconds to go through this giant log. This one dude comes up with one that just is fucking like ginormous, looks like a minigun out of like a sci-fi movie, and starts that thing. The thing went through a log in like 1.2 seconds. It fucking, the thing had to be repaired afterwards. Like, that's how like intense it was. It was like it does this once. It's like the fucking jet engine of like chainsaws.
This really sounds like an anime. Like, as much as these guys probably all hate anime, this sounds like an anime.
Well, ironic, we're at that point now where like anime's been around for so long that I bet you, because everybody there is probably, you know, give or take like 20 to 35 who are mainly probably doing these events. There's definitely.
Okay, I was guessing there's a couple guys who are like in their 50s there that were just. Yeah, there probably is that, but it's that weird one too. Like nowadays, you're probably like, yeah, I grew up fucking watching Dragon Ball Z. You know, I bet you there would be a bunch of that. You know, the chain thing is like the chain is actually the ball, like the four ball Dragon Ball at the end. You know?
But
the blades made look like Shenron going really fast.
Yeah, so there is all that kind of stuff, but yeah, no, there's just it's just such an interesting event that I feel like that doesn't happen. Like, there's very few places you probably find something like that. I mean, I know that's like Tuolumne's claim to fame is that it was the Wild West area where they did hardcore logging in the 1800s. People got fucked up every night. There was more whorehouses than anywhere else in California. Literally, Sacramento had to show up and be like, "Yo, calm this fucking shit down. You people are way out of fucking control up here. I know you're out in the middle of the fucking woods, but you were doing illegal shit. You know, we want tax money for all this crap."
You're like, get fucked. Fair enough. Leave.
Yeah, okay, kind of. Those loggers are very ruffians up there. You know what I mean? So it's like Tuolumne's like milked that ever since then. You know, it's like, hey, you know, we might not have a, you know, the lumber yard and all that stuff may have faded away, but we still got the spirit of the Tuolumne County Lumber Jubilee every year.
You get a chainsaw that looks like a fucking a robot from like Battlestar Galactica. Yeah. Like, that's it. I didn't know. I mean, I heard about the chainsaw competition, but I never knew about the level of like they soup it up, make it look all crazy, and then like down. Except that would be kind of cool. Earlier, I was making jokes about like you got to be man town to come in here, and like probably to some extent, yeah, I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, though, just like hearing how souped up and crazy the chainsaws are, it makes it sound a little bit more fun, you know. So
yeah, no, it is one of those ones because I hadn't gone to it. since I was probably like a kid, and I probably only went like once or twice maybe. And then I remember Josh was like, "Oh, let's go down there." It's he always liked going to it and so on. And he just happened to be back in town from Arkansas, so we went there. I mean, this was like in the summertime or whatever the heck it was, maybe even there, but and it's just one of those ones like, oh yeah, dude, it's one of those ones like there's a lot of cool shit just to watch. So you're like, yeah, you don't see that fucking every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, earlier, before you led on to that, you were talking about a Tuolumne City wrestling competition.
Yeah, because that's what I was all leading to. And the only reason I brought the Lumber Jubilee up is because it takes place in the same like vicinity right there.
The reason, I mean, I'll be honest, of everybody, I don't really give a shit about wrestling. I don't. I can appreciate a good movie about wrestling or a good wrestler's story or something like that, like The Wrestler or something. But I really don't, on average, give a shit about wrestling. But if you told me, like, oh yeah, there's a wrestling thing going on in downtown, like in Tuolumne, I'd be like, I don't give a shit. They're bringing people from out of town to come do it. No, like locals. People you went to high school with are like drop kicking each other in the fucking face. I'm like, I want to see this. Like, I don't want to participate, but I want to see this. There's that part of me that like wants to kick that kid's ass from high school, but another part of me is like, yeah, but what if I fail and I do it in front of everybody? It's even worse when you're in your 30s. So you're like, well, let's see these two assholes knock it out. Yeah.
Well, see, that's what the Tuolumne County Jubilee boxing thing pretty much was. Like literally just, it looks like guys that get off of fucking work from the mill, from, the factory and so on like that, get a couple beers in them and then go stand up on a log, put some gloves on and go at it. And the dude who practically won it, well, there was like an injury. One dude fell off the back of the log and that was the end of that. Ambulance came and they're like, you know what? I guess we don't need to worry about who's the true winner here anymore. But if you remember Scott Sanders from high school, he was going to take the crown.
I don't remember the name. That's not the guy that's not the that dumbass crypto bro we bumped into getting pizza one time.
No. Scott Sanders, if you would have met him, you'd be like, oh no, he's a really cool guy. He's really nice.
Okay. Well, I'm glad
he's related to Thomas Giacchetta, sort of somehow, somewhere.
Oh, okay. But Scott won though.
Pretty much, as I said, like once there was the dude that fell off backwards off the log, that kind of seemed like that.
Ring out,
It was a ring out, but it was more like it was like, oh, that's a legitimate injury. Oh fuck, go on to the tug of war. Let's distract people from this.
Krillin beat Goku in Super by a ring out. So if it counts in Super, in Dragon Ball Super, it counts in real life off a log. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of went from there. And
good for him.
But which that was the first thing I was thinking. I was sitting there going like, that looks dangerous up there. Are you sure you want to have these guys standing on probably a log that's 6 foot up in the air and falling off
6
back?
feet.
Yeah,
Shit.
like they're standing like it's a giant fucking log that they like were standing on top of. Yeah,
I assumed it was just a giant stump or something like that. That was like,
yeah, it did not look safe at all. That's all I had to say. And lo and behold, obviously, if you fell off, I think the dude like probably broke his ankle or something when he fell off and just stood funny. But maybe broke his knee, twisted his knee real bad. That's what it looked like.
Now you said this is on me. You said log, but I heard like. You said log. What came to mind was like a big stump cut, and the stump's like a little off the ground, maybe like 4 feet or something.
Yeah, like one of those ones you see at Yosemite that they're like, look at what we did back in the 1800s.
Yeah, like look at count the rings.
We cut the biggest fucking tree down, and then we all fucked it later. Yeah.
This thing is older than Jesus. Now it's fucking dead. Fuck you, nature.
Let's take some pictures with our dicks out, and just.
We got to stand still. Like, look, it's a little black and white one where you got to get under the.
Here. Let's get this picture of John Muir crying between us, and we'll stand there with our dicks out, slapping him in the face. Yep, we did that. Yeah. Get a close shot of our faces. You know what I mean? Like we're fucking proud of this shit.
This is one of those pictures that just takes a second to look at it. You see a guy, he just like 5 dicks, just like semi-chubbed, just pressed against his eye. Fucking cheek.
Yeah, we were trying to get this tree. It was so big, we were hoping it was just going to fall on top of Berkeley. And just take them all out in one. It wasn't that big, but it was still pretty fucking big. Enough to make them pissed.
we were if we cut down another one, they'll all be here. So along with Sacramento to try and stop us from doing it again.
Yeah, exactly. Shit, it's hard as fuck to get into Yosemite. Not like they're going to be able to get here. Not like they made roads or anything yet. But
I like that idea of warfare. Like, there's that town we fucking hate. Chop down this fucking tree, like, and just like barely, like, just misses like the town by a foot. Like, fuck.
But okay, going back to the wrestling part here. Okay, so, and this is where the Tom Cruise part. There was literally a dude who had a Tom Cruise, like he looked like Tom Cruise, so he rocked the Tom Cruise like Top Gun theme was like his character.
Did he run into him? I feel like the way Tom Cruise always does is how he ran into the ring.
He didn't come in like looking like Ultimate Warrior at like full speed. He was like he had like the flight jacket on and the glasses and everything like that. And a lot of these dudes were all out of like a mixed match of the Bay Area, San Francisco, Modesto, a couple LA people. So they were getting indies from all over the place. And Buddy was there with us. And of course he knew like a handful of the wrestlers already because he's like the encyclopedia of like all things wrestling. So we were there watching it, and I mean, I kid you not, it was actually a pretty good turnout because we're like, oh, we're gonna go there, and there'll probably be, how many people are gonna show up to Tuolumne City, and so on like that. There'll probably be like 50 people or something like that. There's like 450 fucking people there. Like it was like a huge turnout, and I really do think a lot of people probably came from Modesto, because I think that's where the wrestling promotion came from. So you did have some people there. I mean, they were fucking into it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right on. That's actually, I wouldn't have guessed it'd be that big, but yeah.
Dude, it was literally bigger than the Bay Area shows that I used to go to, the APW ones. And those APW ones are real official ones anyways, because that's literally part of like they're like tied into WWE and everything like that. So
you do good here, then you work your way up to WWE and whatnot?
That's pretty much how those indie things kind of work, is, guys are looking to get noticed and so on like that, and they're kind of fun because you can kind of see there's like some guys that like, you could tell that like, oh man, this guy's actually kind of jacked. He's putting some effort into it. He's good looking and so on. And then there's those other guys that's just like super overweight, just being like, I don't give a fuck. I mean, like, I work a regular job, Monday through Friday, but on the weekends I come in and I fucking, slam some dudes around.
I'll watch that dude's wrestling story. The dude who's just overweight, works at Staples, has a lot of aggression. He's got to get out from the customers. I'll watch that guy. If I know that guy exists, I know he's out there. But if you tell me that's that guy, I'll watch that guy's story. I'll go out of my way for that, because I don't know, just some of I could just imagine like some of the people like at Walmart who just gotta take shit day in, day out, and then they just go put on like a Lucha Libre mask and then just like get it all out of their system.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely a lot of that, because that's the thing about wrestling. It's one of the few sports that you can be like that guy who's like, hey, are you middle-aged and you work kind of just a regular, boring, basic job? You literally still can find one of those indie circuits where it's like, here you go, get a little bit of training in, and so on like that, and you can come out here and still put on a show.
Have you you're talking about wrestling, you're talking about man shit, and I'm like, have you seen this new cartoon? It's based on wrestling, but like it's actually pretty good.
Is this the one with all the chicks in it or whatever, like the anime?
I don't know if it's a bunch of chicks. There's one called Invincible Fighting Girl, which is on Adult Swim. There's like 4 or 5 episodes out right now. I haven't seen the newest one. But it's actually, they say it's focusing on wrestling. It's more anime fighting with some wrestling holds and techniques in it. And it's like, I don't really know what it's doing on Adult Swim. It feels like right so far it could be on Toonami or something, but it's actually really good. It's for working within like what seems like PG humor. It's pretty funny. Like there's a part where like a lot of the gimmicks, like the whole thing is like the world is focused on wrestling so much, and you even like look at like the continents. The continents looks like an arm flexing, just by happenstance. And if you're not a wrestler, then you're born on Accountant Island, and they do all the things that make everything else in the whole world work. And they don't that's the one place where there's no wrestling. And like there's just some small throwaway jokes, like she's on her way to school on Accountant Island, and you see like there's like a a sheep herder, and he's just like herding a bunch of like office chairs, it's just like that kind of shit, But then like the humor is like quick, passive stuff like that, but it has the big bombastic anime battles, which are pretty good. And then of course, it's like this girl who's an accountant who doesn't want to be an accountant but wants to become a wrestler because she saw it at a young age, and she's working her way up, and the world is this crazy. Like if somebody says, "I want a match," there's like a satellite that like shoots down, like a ring opens up and like makes this big explosion. And after the fight, everyone has like 30 seconds before the thing just explodes for no reason, So it's kind of like, so there is like a lot of humor to it. And like, I don't know. I was thinking of something like, well, this is the only thing I really add to wrestling, this cartoon about a girl who wants to be a wrestler, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'd recommend it. I think it's more crazy over the top anime battles. And like the fun thing is the thing that kind of helps her realize she wants to be in a wrestle. She saw a match and when she was a kid and she got into it. But then the thing that she's been doing secretly training is like watching like a Bob Ross like wrestler tutorial videos. Is here's what we're gonna do this nice little ankle crank, just kind of like he talks like Bob Ross, but he's a wrestler. So it's just like
that's awesome.
It's pretty good. I think it's on Max. It's a pretty good show.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds like something I like, because it's one of those weird ones. Like, it's like when it comes down to sports, I always like, because when I say what I like, it pretty much shuts down any sports conversation really fast. I'm like, there's only two sports I really like, and that's wrestling and bodybuilding. So pretty much what I've learned is I only like sports with guys with their shirts off.
Yeah, and all oiled up and whatnot.
Yeah, and realistically, if I really sum it up, it's like, it's not necessarily like I like the sport part of it, I guess you would sort of say. I almost more like the stories when it really sums up. Like that's what I like about it. I think that's the two things I like. I like old bodybuilding and old wrestling stories. I like when you just have old guys just talking about stuff like that. I don't know why. That's the interesting stuff I find about it, I always kind of said it's like if football or any of that stuff like had like some backstage, stories, and it's just like, oh, well, why does this team really hate the other team? Well, we're going to show you. You know what I mean? This is what happened. There was a feud. This guy was banging this other dude's wife and so on like that. Now he's fucking pissed off and whatnot. And, they had some like back locker like brawls and so on. Like I think I need a little bit more of that for me to get around like regular sports.
Like this is how up to date I am. But like, save when John Madden was alive. Like if John Madden's given like some like, oh, did you see that throw? Oh, he throws like a fucking bitch. And all of a sudden, the running back just stops, looks up, and just like runs runs off into like the locker room. Like, what the fuck? You just up the stairs. Like, what the fuck? They have the backstage. Like, keep talking that shit, Madden. Keep talking that shit.
You just like smashing him in like the announcer room and stuff. Fucking like bashing the fucking like headphones over him, throwing him through like.
Grabs his pen, like draws something around him, like to start choking him out or something like that. Like, fucking magic.
Well, because that's like the most magical thing about fucking WWE is that like Vince McMahon, who fucking owned it, like, in like the 90s and stuff, where it's like, yeah, we're going to make it, he's the boss character that comes in, you know what I mean? And fucking like literally, fight Stone Cold and things like that. I mean, like that's like one of those, like, that's what makes it so like magical. Yeah, because that's what it was, is they had that thing where that was Stone Cold's like probably main like storyline, is that he was the guy who was like, yeah, he takes on his boss. And I think that's what made him so popular, is for the fact it's like, think about it, anybody who ever had like a bad job or something in their life, they're like, I just so wish I could go up and just give my boss a fucking Stone Cold Stunner, drink a couple of beers, throw him on top of him, give him the double bird, you know what I mean, and fucking storm out of there and still come back to work the next day.
Well, I'm guessing they were realistic. They didn't make it that Vince McMahon actually put up a real fight, right? Because I'm guessing he probably couldn't keep up with Steve. With like,
well, I mean, it's not like a fight. It's obviously scripted, but Vince McMahon got all fucking jacked and everything like that. Like he's still fucking jacked. He's like almost 80 fucking years old, and he's still fucking in good shape, because he was always really into working out. But for what at first, he owned WWE, and he's always owned WWE. But then it's like he did the announcing back in like the 80s. Like he was always the guy, he did the announcing table with Jesse Ventura and all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, in the 90s, they started throwing like, hey, let's have the boss man actually go in there and fucking like, wrestle with the guys. And that was always the big thing. Stone Cold was the anti-establishment guy. So, that's why people were fucking always like, fuck yeah!
Yeah. Okay. All right. I didn't know that. I know there's a big documentary on him, but like, there's already like every other documentary this day and age is like sexual abuse and workplace harassment. Like, I'll watch this later.
That's how I kind of thought too. It's like I like the idea of watching because I just like to see the history of like WWE with Vince McMahon and all that kind of stuff. But it's like if they get to a point where they start focusing on that too much, I'm like, I don't know. That's the thing. It's like I don't care. It's not. Well,
here's the thing. I guess I don't have a connection, or I don't really give a shit about him. So it's not that like I don't want his image to be ruined for me. I don't give a fuck about him. It's just every other documentary is that, and it becomes a lot after a while. Not this. I want to be blind. I don't want to know about it. Just like, I just got done watching like 3 other documentaries you guys put out about like an abusive like TikTok wrangler or whatever who created a cult. Everything's a cult. Everything. And no wrong. It's not like I'm not blaming the people or anything. I'm not saying there should be told. After a while, some of it seems exploitive. Maybe I'll check that one out at some point, just because. From what I hear, he's a piece of shit, but it would be, I don't know, it might still be an interesting documentary nonetheless. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like that one. He's a business guy. Like, not everybody's going to like him. You know, there's going to be some things where some people think he's great. Other people are like, dude, that guy got me kind of screwed over. I know back in the day, that was the whole thing, Jesse Ventura, because Jesse Ventura is the one that people always got. He's the dude who got all the wrestlers like kind of like health care and rights and things like that because, you know, in the olden days, it used to be like, fuck, here, you know, here's your money. Go fucking work 365 days a year. I don't give a fuck, you know. But that was just old school kind of thing, you know. But so it's like there's going to be that mixed stuff, you know. And it's like I feel like, you know, no matter what, it's hard to look at anything black and white. I feel like the older you get, everything becomes like, well, you know, I see that point there, and you know, that part was kind of bad, but you start getting like. You almost like it's like you almost can't pick sides anymore because you're like, oh, kind of, you know, okay. I mean, I like wrestling. He made wrestling like big and all that kind of stuff. You know, a couple people got kind of screwed over. That bound to happen, I guess. You know, there's Bret Hart over there complaining again about everybody. And it's like, you know, Bret, you know, we like you and all, but you just seem so negative Nancy you know, in the old days. Like, oh, they took the title away from me. Oh, Montreal screw job. Oh man. Oh.
See, I have no idea about Bret the Hitman Hart other than what you've told me. And then one of the games when he does a slam, a bunch of little hearts come out like he's Sonic losing rings. But,
the arcade one.
That's what I know about him. And then like his book is pink because I saw it in your house.
Yeah.
But like, I'll be honest. I actually maybe it's just simplistic. Maybe it's just compromentalizing. I don't know. I find things getting more black and white just because it's just I don't even want to go into a big old fucking political thing here, but I just find it's easier. Not easier. I think things are getting kind of more black and white for me, just because it's just like I don't know. It's just kind of harder to like look at like yeah, okay, maybe they did this over here, but this over here is so fucking shitty. I don't care about that. You know what I mean? Like it's a give and take kind of thing, and it depends on who it is. Like. Vince McMahon, I have no connection to wrestling, so if I watch that documentary, I'll probably be like, yeah, fuck this guy. He can burn in hell for all I care. But then if I probably heard some shady shit about, say, Mick Jagger, I would probably be a little bit more, not saying it's right, not saying he should have. I'm just assuming, I don't know. I know at some point he dated a 14-year-old girl when he was like in his 20s, but then again, part of me.
But then again, that's the 70s. I hate to sort of say it.
I'm not saying that's good. Like I'm not like 60s and 70s. Not saying that's good. Not saying that's right. But that was then. He wasn't the only one, and maybe he feels differently about it now. I don't know. I haven't really looked into a whole lot of aspects of his personal life, or if even looking at dealings or kind of person he is. So at some point, like, well, maybe I'll still listen to Rolling Stones. I can still enjoy Rolling Stones. Maybe I won't like walk around with like a T-shirt of Mick Jagger, like just like stick out or something. I don't know. It's all like it's all varying take. It's all give and take kind of thing. Like Roland Polanski, he deserves to be in a fucking jail cell, but I mean, Rosemary's Baby still.
Yeah, he makes good fucking movies. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck. Yeah.
I'm saying I don't think that. I'm not going to say I think that immediately absolves him. You did a good thing. You made a good thing that absolves you of everything. But I still think that like, not to like, how do I put it? Like, not giving him a pass, but at the same time, like celebrating, like that is kind of the thing of like. Difference, like it doesn't. I don't think that movie is representative of what he did. Like that movie is not as representative. I mean, I guess
it's technically somebody else's book if you really think about it. Because I think Rosemary's Baby is a book.
Like the guy who wrote Outlaw Josie Wales was, I think, I don't know his whole story. It was something I heard a long time ago, but the guy who wrote Outlaw Josie Wales, he was this guy who was like, I'm just some kind of like Arizona hippie living out in the desert, man. Everything's all cool. Like, all right, cool. This is what this guy wrote. Let's look into let's look in other aspects about him. Like, well, wait, where the fuck this guy go to school? Where's this? This isn't his real name. What the fuck? Holy shit. This guy was involved in a lynching back in the South, and he was like a member of the KKK and this and that. But then, so it's like, yeah, this, and like he got let off. I don't remember if he got like what it was. He was, I don't know if he was a part of the KKK, but he was involved with lynching. He was like a racist piece of shit. But then at the same time, it was some time between that book, between him, between his crime and the book. And the book has a real big disillusion about like, I mean, I know the bad guy is the Union, but I want to say there's also a big disillusion with the South and making amends and this and that. So it's one of those things where like I can still enjoy that movie knowing that it came from this guy. But who knows?
Yeah. Well, and there's so many. If you look at that, the way you have to look at like a movie too is like, okay, that's one guy out of a crew of 100 plus. You know, by that standard, it's like we shouldn't just like, you know. It's one of the best Clint Eastwood movies, so it's like, you know, maybe there's some gems in like some dark areas in a sense, you know what I mean? Like the guy might have done a bunch of other junk, but maybe Outlaw Josie Wales. Well, at least that's one thing.
And I'm paraphrasing something from like a video I saw like 2 years ago. I don't remember all the details, and I think within the book there's things that weren't in the movie. And I'm maybe this is my mind just trying to correct certain things, but I think because I remember walking away from the video saying like this guy seemed like someone who felt bad about it and was trying to make amends one way or the other, and then disappeared because they were already in the process of making the movie when all this shit was coming out about him or something like that. But at the same time, though, yeah, it's like I think it depends. Like if there's a dude who's like a let's just say like his favorite thing to do was to punch Native American woman in the face, and he made a movie about that. Then I'm like, all right, maybe then like let's like red flag one.
Yeah, so it's a weird thing. Like it's like that's in your contract. Yes.
The movie,
you know how John Milius says that in every movie he makes he needs a gun. Well, in my contract, every movie I make, I need some Native American woman to punch in the face.
Yeah, like maybe that was.
I'm not racist. It's just I just need this.
And then like they find all these videos of him saying, "I need this, I want this." You see him like at Charlottesville. You see him like whenever they're trying to like close down a pipeline. He's there with the cops, like, "Get him! You know, he's running. So it's just like, oh shit, we didn't put this together. It's too bad we signed him on to the next MCU movie.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
oh shit, he was going to do the Apache Chief movie.
Yeah, for DC. I still want that Apache Chief movie, damn it. But I'm just gonna say those like documentaries. Like this is like I'm not gonna throw you another like here's another section of like that you probably don't watch as much, but the one thing that bothers me is that like so many documentaries, and this is like in the last like almost 20 years, is that like even though they can be kind of good, they still sort of focus a little bit more on like the darker, depressing, sad parts. And I'm going to use this as my example. This is bodybuilding once again, but you know, okay, Pumping Iron. You watch that with Arnold Schwarzenegger in '77, with Lou Ferrigno and Franco Columbu and all those guys. Like that movie has such a fun factor to it. Like you watch it and it's like, oh man, the fucking bodybuilding's awesome. These guys are hanging out. They're having a good time. Arnold's saying some crazy shit. You know, Lou Ferrigno's like getting bullied by his dad. You know, like it's great. It's fun. You know, I mean,
what the fuck? You can't hear me? Why can't you fucking hear me? Can't you do that program left forever? Like, oh, fuck the hell, let me alone. Fuck.
You know, and then there's these movies. There's a brand. It's called Generation Iron, and they are really good. Don't get me wrong. I like these documentaries, and there's a handful of different ones. There's one that's cool. It's on C.T. Fletcher. There's one on Ronnie Coleman and all that kind of stuff. But they all kind of, as good as they are, they sort of focus on like the kind of like the, you know, he was lifting good, and then all of a sudden he tore his bicep, and now he's sitting there on the couch playing video games and wondering what he's gonna do with the rest of his life. You know, it's like why don't we just focus on more like the fun parts, like make bodybuilding fun again? You know what I mean? Like just where it's like, hey, we're having a great time. Look, I fucking lift weights. You know, I go fucking tanning, and then I play fucking video games because I have to rest the rest of the day. Like what a fucking life. You know what I mean? Like got my fucking fucking dog here. You know what I mean? I'm fucking eating 6 times a day, fucking living the dream. Like, I think they need to bring a little bit more of that back.
Well, I think it depends on the subject matter and the thing. So I can't speak for bodybuilding as much. I've seen a couple bodybuilding documentaries, and it always turns into like serial killers that were bodybuilders at one point.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. It's like there was like that fucking what's her face movie from like Twilight. Killers of the.
Oh, they not Love Life's Bleeding. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember one of the John Hansen, Mr. Natural, the guy who won the first Natural Olympias. He's got a podcast I listen to all the time, and called Bodybuilding Legends. And he went and saw that one. And I remember because I was almost like, I'm kind of interested in seeing this. And then when he's like, it's another movie though that just puts bodybuilding like in a bad light. And I'm like, that almost makes me not really want to see it. It's just like that like negative context that they always like throw on stuff. It's like, oh, you know, here she is. She's a lesbian. She does steroids. Then she gets really violent, and it's like, okay, that's.
I liked it.
I'm not saying it might not be, but it's like it's one of those ones. It's like that thing where it's just like I want to see like something where it's like let's like put it in a nice spotlight and so on like that. Like let's not put it in such a negative. I just didn't feel like I wanted to see a negative context.
I guess it's one of those things like, no, that's not based on a true story. That's not what I was talking about. There's like there's some.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but there's that one right there. I need to watch it again. I liked it. And I just like the setting and the concept, and the bodybuilding thing was almost really secondary to it. The lady was really into bodybuilding, and Kristen Stewart wasn't a bodybuilder. Yeah, she was the lady selling steroids, and she helped run the gym. And she worked out a little bit, but she wasn't the bodybuilder. The other lady was the bodybuilder, and she has a big freak out. She does too much steroids at once, and I'll go into it later. But I can go into it later because, I mean, truth be told, I don't know where it stands. It's probably going to be somewhere in my top 10 because I have not seen a lot of movies this year. So
that's because there hasn't been a lot of movies this year. It's such like I hate to sort of say it, but like there's like not even like I think about that in the movies. It's like there's not even like movies like where you're like, I got a couple hours to kill. You're like, oh, there's nothing there.
I just haven't. I mean, well, I'll go back to the main topic in a second, but yeah, like. That movie, like there's like a lot of movies I want to see but haven't had a chance to see. And some movies a lot of movies on my list are movies like I saw it and I liked it. Is that why it's the other years this would probably be like a number like 15 or something.
Yeah.
But I saw, like this movie, I liked it more. This would probably make my list regardless, but it might be a little higher just because of the lack of movies I've seen. But this movie, going back to the other thing we're talking about. I guess if you're really into bodybuilding and you're seeing all these negative connotations about it, I can understand how that's be annoying and little one note. I guess when it comes to documentary stuff, I think it's a couple things. I think it's well, first off, it depends on the documentary.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It depends for sure.
But Netflix, there's some good Netflix documentaries, but I take a fat grain of salt with a lot of Netflix documentaries because they had that documentary Making a Murderer. And they make the guy look like he was framed. And by the end, it looks like, by the end, like this guy was totally fucking framed. And then you look into it outside Netflix, it's like, no, fucking blood of the victim and this and that was found all over here, here, and here. They didn't bother bringing that shit up. Like, well, the cops did this kind of shady thing right here. Like, yeah, okay, that was shady, but you can't fucking deny why they leave this shit out over here. So it's one of those things where, and I think, I don't know if the guy admitted to it, but there's some update with that kind of almost sealed it that, yeah, he fucking did it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the downfall too is so many documentaries that you kind of like learn this later in life, but like is the fact that like some of them like, oh, they have a biased agenda that they're trying to push, and you just don't know that sometimes going in. It's like, why don't you just make this in a neutral like path like that? I think that's the better way to make a documentary. Is you shouldn't take a stand.
Well, I think it depends on what you're trying to say. Like if you're trying to bring some kind of like atrocity to light, I think you can go atrocity or crime to light. You can say, okay, how did we get here? I think you could say that. But the idea of like, well, let's hear both sides now. Like, all right, well, let's let them talk, but come the fuck on. Like depending on what it is.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of like serial killer documentaries or crime documentaries. I mean, a lot of it I also think has just become more of reality TV. I was watching.
I think something like that too.
There's that Ren Fair one where you just where it's like, okay, someone saw Tiger King, and they're trying. This thing is almost too pre-staged and everything. Like this is this was too pre-staged. No, this is basically reality TV with an A24 kind of angle to it. No, get the fuck out of here. But like going on what you're saying about other documentaries, like I'm not other documentaries about bodybuilding stuff. Like I can understand what you mean because you just want something that's more upbeat and positive. But I think right now people just are kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for here? I think people have a lot of distrust in all industries and everything now. So now every documentary kind of needs sort of a hook or like, all right, well, while you were smiling and everything was happy over here, here's what was really going on or something kind of like that,
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to it's the classic YouTube thing that negativity sells, and I think that's the thing is documentaries milk that just as hard as like people on like YouTube are like top 5 things I hate in life.
Yeah.
In a sense, documentaries do that. They just don't sound nearly as 15-year-old-ish. They try to wrap it around a little bit more sophisticated sounding, but it really is kind of doing the same thing of that, like, let's focus on the negative, because people like to hear that, and as I'm just saying, like, I just use the bodybuilding is because, like, pumping iron is like you watch pumping iron, even if you're not really even into bodybuilding, you can watch and be like, dude, that looks like fucking fun. Like, I want to be hanging out down in fucking Santa Monica, Venice Beach. Don't go there nowadays, though. Don't.
Yeah.
You watch pumping iron, you're like, this looks amazing. You go down there, it's like fucking, it literally looks like, oh, here's your A24 depressing looking version of it. Like,
someone just deadlifting a dead manatee,
Yeah. Oh, look at there's a rope there that looks like it's just all like a climbing rope that's all shredded and torn and frayed and just blowing in the wind. And yeah,
there's another rope next to it. Oh wait, no, that's a noose.
Oh, and there's a bunch of hobos all camping around there, and there's some guy trying to give you his reggae CD for $2 that he burnt. It's like, don't you got a fucking Spotify account? Like, nobody wants your fucking CD. Yeah, it's like that's the one thing. It's like I'm like I need to not watch those 60s and 70s like Muscle Beach like videos where it's like, oh, it's so cool looking right there. Look at fucking Dave Draper. That looks so awesome. Then you like go down there. It's like it literally is like post-apocalyptic version of it where it's like
Mad Max.
Yeah, it's just like fucking a Bruce Springsteen song should be playing over the top of it.
He was deadlifting his dreams. Now he's deadlifting his body. I got nothing. I didn't really go into that. You hear that thing when you start singing? Like, I got nowhere to go with this shit.
Well, but we're going.
I don't know enough about bodybuilding to like throw in any funny terms. But no, I get what you mean. I guess it'd be nice if there's the thing you're into to hear about like if you're writing a documentary. If there's a documentary on like crunch time in like the video game industry, I understand coming in a negative aspect of saying this is why this is fucked, this is why this is bullshit, this game made this much money but they still like fire all these people at the end after it wins all these nominations, and the only people that really get a big chunk are these people at top who barely did anything. So I understand that, but I guess it's at the same time, if that is the only documentary you're getting on video games, it's like, okay, can we talk about how this game was made? Can we have just another documentary? We could still have the hard truths, but we could still like maybe find like something that's just okay, the history on this game or something like that,
Yeah, literally. That's another one I got kind of issues with a lot of times is like I'll get kind of like video game books, and there is a lot of good ones, don't get me wrong, but like I hate the ones that focus on the business stuff. Like, I don't give a fuck about the business. Like, tell me how I want to hear the creative part of it. I don't care how much fucking money's back and forth. That's like, that to me is like, that's not what I'm here for. I want to hear about like the in-depth, That's why I like those the books that are all like the id books or whatever on id Software, of like they're so fucking awesome and like inspirational and so on like that. And there's literally a John Romero one, and he fucking reads it himself, so it's like legitimate stories. And then there's one that's
in the background.
Well, yeah, it was just all the Doom and Wolfenstein. And all that
so you said John Romero. I heard George Romero.
Oh, yeah. I know it's kind of confusing, but like, yeah, John Romero is one of the there's like technically 4 dudes who pretty much made generally Wolfenstein, Doom, and Quake in a sense. Well, Quake had a couple extra people on there by that point, but it's just so cool. It's like, yeah, 4 guys fucking hanging out like in fucking, I think they're in Texas at one point, and then they're also like in like somewhere like Minnesota or something like that for another part. But yeah, just like 4 guys hanging out, playing video games, and just working hard as fuck, like to make Wolfenstein, Doom, and all those ones there, and then like they become like some of the biggest games ever, and it's like, yeah, and they did it like communist style, where it's just like, doesn't matter, we split it 4 ways. If you stop working here, you lose your share. That's it.
Like the
you know what I mean?
Stooges. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I love that like way. It's just like, yeah, doesn't matter. We all work hard as fuck, because John Romero's one, like he did like level designing and some programming and so on. John Carmack was the main programmer, and then I'm trying to blank on the other two. The Adrian Carmack, no relation. He did like the art, and then there's the other dude who pretty much did like a lot of, like the kind of business and story and things like that. And it's just like, yeah, that's the perfect like 4 dudes fucking like pumping it out and so on. But there's so many of those books where it's like where they don't focus enough on, like I'll use that. There's like the one called Console Wars where it's about Sega and Nintendo and so on like that. And the downfall of that one is it just literally focuses on like the guys who are all the big producer guys. Like I don't give a fuck. Like talk about fucking the making of Sonic the Hedgehog and things like that. That's what I want to hear about. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to hear about like, oh well, we got this deal here and we spent this much money. It's like fuck. You know what I mean? Like yeah. You can have a little bit. You can have a little bit of that in there, but like what I really want to hear is like the deep nitty gritty like stuff of there, Or there's another great book series where it's like it's Diablo 1 and 2. They're actually 2 different books, and so the entire book is literally just on the making of Diablo 1, and the stuff around it. So it's cool. You get like a real in depth like here's the guys hanging out making the games and all this kind of stuff like that, and then you can sprinkle the business stuff on like the back burner and so on like that. But you're not focused on like here's the big producer guys. Let's hear what the top guy at EA has to say. It's like
oh yeah, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've sorry. I've been yeah, I remember you sent me a link to the Doom book. I didn't get I have it. I've yet to listen to the Doom audiobook or like what's it called? The
Masters of Doom.
Masters of Doom. I did, however, start the audiobook to The Getaway. So
oh, nice.
Have you read the book yet?
No, I don't, and I have the physical book sitting here, so I feel like I need to sit down and it's one of those ones like I'll buy books and I'll have all the greatest intention of finally getting around to them, and then next thing you know, they just go in the stack, and I'm like, I got to get to this at some point.
I haven't I haven't got that far into it. It's just something I put on if my son wakes up late and I need to feed him. It's just something to help keep me up. I'm not that far into it, but the movie has that 70s kind of grit. This takes place. The book takes what came out in the 50s, so it takes place in the 50s. And so some of the, and like the narrator who's fine for the most part, but he does like some of the voices, like it's just kind of like because you see the movie and then you're imagining some of the characters the way they're talking. Like there's Rudy, who is like the kind of like the creepy like slobby like Mexican dude who's kind of like he comes across as kind of stupid, but he's a little smarter than he leads on, and he's always just kind of like just barely behind them. So far in the book, he's meant to be just a dumbass, but it's kind of funny because when he writes them, he's just like, "Why I also stabs you," like he's just like, "Here comes Rudy Torres. Oh, why I oughta." Like, okay. So this is like, so it's hard to take him seriously. That's when he started stabbing the man and pulled out his innards. Like, oh, why I ought to do it. Just you can't take him seriously.
He's old timey gangster.
Well, you hear this horrible shit that he's doing, but he's still doing like this. Oh, why you think I'm stupid, don't you? I'm like, no, I don't think you're stupid at all. I just think can't keep up with everything. So it's just like, and like the Steve McQueen character Doc. It's kind of funny because in the movie he's Steve McQueen, but let's be honest, he has no charm. He's just like, we're gonna do this. Why? Because I'm Steve McQueen. I'm the alpha. I'm the alpha male. You're all a bunch of cucks working for me. That's kind of like how he acts. And then
that's really like, when you think about Steve McQueen movies, that's pretty much Steve McQueen. He has very little lines. He doesn't actually do a whole lot of acting when you really think about it. But for some reason, he's the most charming guy on the fucking screen.
Like, okay, just everyone else just like, okay, we'll go with you, Steve. And then like, but in this, the whole thing is he's like a very charming guy who's able to basically. He comes across way nicer because he'll be like the nicest person in the world to everybody he bumps into, but it's mostly self-serving. It's mostly so A, they don't think it's me when shit goes bad. B, they don't want, if they find out it's me, they won't want to give me up because I gave him a 20 for a tip for coffee, so it's kind of like that kind of thing. Like, so it's kind of like he's almost kind of, so far, he's kind of almost more of an interesting character because he's just more of like this, he's nice, but it's solely for self-serving reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, God, that does sound interesting still, no matter what, just the extra details and stuff you're going to get in there and so on.
I'll be honest, so far, I mean, I like it. I don't mean to cut you off there. I like it so far. So far, he's the only thing that's really more interesting about it. It's more from his perspective, even though it's like a third-person book. But everything else is a little bit more. But maybe as it goes on, well, we know where it ends. But
yeah, as it goes on, we got the extra, the bonus ending, the extended cut. Yeah,
the DLC. So. In paper form, so but anyway, I'm liking it still. It's kind of like, it also just jumps right ahead. They're like staking out the heist. They're getting ready to do the heist. Like the first chapter is just him interacting with like a night clerk at a hotel he's staying at, and he's scoping out like the bank they're gonna rob. And then right after that, immediately just jump. And he's having a conversation with the night clerk, which is like this young black kid, and it kind of like does the thing where it's like showing, oh look, he's nice to this young black kid at a time when everyone's mean to this young black kid, like that kind of thing, So, but it's just almost kind of like just giving you all the details about him, and then it goes into the job, and then. Like, so there's like, it just jumps right into it almost after this little prelude. And then, now we're at the point where...
That's kind of cool, because a lot of times books sometimes have that problem. Like, it's like kind of the only downfall a lot of times is they'll spend the first 100 pages and you're like, dude, nothing's fucking happening.
Yeah, the job happens pretty cool. The job happens quick. Like the conversation he has with this kid and scoping the place out and going into like his history with his father was actually a sheriff who was liked by everybody. Yeah, that kind of shit. Like, that all happens, like that all takes longer than the actual heist, and the heist itself is interesting. They described the heist as one point, I want to say, I remember if I remember correctly, Rudy stabs the guy who's supposed to be the fall man for the job, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
I think that happens, and that happens in this, but it goes into, they don't go into horrific detail. Basically, he stabs him and he's like pulling into he like disembowels him and pulls in like his organs sort of, but they don't go into the details of how it looks or anything.
Yeah, well, that's what's the nice thing about books is like, that's the one thing is books are always like a hard R. Like, no, at least when I
hear disembowel, that's what I hear. Maybe disembowel is just stab in the stomach, but I hear disembowel, I assume organs
guts falling out. Yeah,
that's at least that's what comes to mind for me.
But no, that's cool. As I said, I have that physical book. It has like the cool, like, I think it's like the 80s reprint, but it has like a cool pulpy cover on it, which I like. I need to go through that one there at some point.
Oh, and the way the thing happens with Rudy is also when they try to screw him over. That happens differently too. But it's almost kind of like he's not as bright in the book, but it's still just kind of funny the way it happens. I'll let you read it. I've already kind of spoiled enough, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I got to kind of get back to that. Sometimes when you do have like those audiobooks, it's like I do have mixed feelings when guys start to do like voices sometimes, because that can be kind of weird.
It's really bad when it's just like when they do like they'll do certain voices for like I was listening to like, so there's C. Robert Cargill, who is he's one half of Junk Food Cinema podcast. And then he also wrote a couple of books. And he also wrote Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. He wrote a good fantasy horror book, like modern day fantasy horror book, where it's just basically about like fantasy in the modern day, how it's actually right here with us. We just can't see it. Here's how you get to it, and here's how people in modern day interact with it. And it's not so much like, ooh, there's a couple scary monsters, but it's not so much like a slasher in that way. There's like a slasher scene or two, but it's more of like a, just if we shared a world with these things, this would be scary. And this is like more of that kind of Celtic eldritch horror type stuff, Anyway, it was a really good story. However, I once again, going off what I was Max Brooks' book last time I was on, I recommend reading it because the guy reading it, he thinks he's working at Funimation or some shit. He's like, if there's a girl character, hello, I'm a girl, hi, yeah. No, and then that's where a changeling comes in. There's a changeling character, and he's like, let me tell you what's going on here. Like, oh, dude, just shut the fuck up. Just read what's on the fucking book.
I hate that. That's when it sounds like he's reading to like fucking 8-year-olds.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you just talked about how this dude, like, you just talked about how, like, this group of college kids got, like, brutally fucking murdered. This isn't a fucking story time book. You know?
Well, it's kind of a bummer that Carlisle doesn't just read it himself, because he already kind of has a voice. So I think
he has a nice voice, yeah.
Yeah, because to me, I feel like the authors. I mean, there's certain times and places, but I feel like it's better if the author reads it himself. I like it. It feels more authentic too, even if they're not nearly as good of like maybe a reader. You know what I mean? It's like okay, well, I feel like I can believe it more.
Yeah, yeah. I feel bad because I'm talking about like someone like, oh, this book, that book. You actually read books. I'm like, yeah, you know. So I listen to the audiobook. I recommend reading the book. I haven't done that yet. I haven't finished a book in a while.
I do technically both, because I got a lot of drive time and walk time in life. So like I do listen to a bit of audiobooks, but I mostly don't. I've come to the conclusion that I don't like novels generally in audiobook form. I feel like I have to read a novel, or I just feel like I have a harder time paying attention to it. But I don't mind like nonfiction books in audiobook form. So I like those kind of books, you know, ones if they're like, you know, stories like, you know, I don't care what it is, history of video games, history of, you know, whatever, you know, in-depth kind of things there. But, you know, movie books or any of that kind of stuff. But, yeah, when it comes to straight novels, you know, I've tried it a handful of times, but I have a harder time like focusing on novels in audiobook form for some reason than if I like read them myself.
I don't know. I guess for recently, I've been listening to just more of like narrative stuff. I just got a little burnt out on like a lot of podcasts lately. There's a couple podcasts I always listen to. So I'm like, oh, let me just listen to something narrative for a little bit. So I put on Max Brooks, and then I kind of fell into a little bit of a Bigfoot mood. And that's the thing when you like, I was listening to some random Bigfoot podcast, and that's the thing. The Bigfoot podcasts and Bigfoot stories are a real fucking roll the dice. Because because I'll be honest, I don't believe Bigfoot. I believe that he was real, or they were real at one point in time. I don't think
Gigantopithecus, that like, you know, ancient Chinese, like, you know, ape one.
Yeah, like I don't think it's real, but
that one was real, but that was like, you know, 30,000 years ago or something.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. I mean, I think it was real, but it's not. I think they're all dead. That's what I think. However, I still want a good Bigfoot story here and there. So I'll put on maybe a couple random Bigfoot podcasts or Bigfoot episodes of something, just cherry picking, just seeing what's out there. And even if it's not like, even if I know it's not true or I don't believe it's true, I'm like, that's a well-written story, or that's good. The only thing is sometimes you get people coming in like, I saw Bigfoot and I believe Bigfoot's real and this and that, this and that. You know, it's like, all right, well, what else do you fucking believe? Oh, the earth is flat. Oh, fucking vaccinations are going to make us, okay, what vaccinations are like microchips or whatever. Fuck. Okay. You know, like a little bit that might chime in a little bit into the story, you know, like now there's like some story I was hearing, like the story was good to a point. Like he was talking about how he came across a Bigfoot when he was like a kid, you know, and then like, I didn't realize it was a Bigfoot. I just thought it was like a loose orangutan from the zoo. I'm like, this is kind of creepy and this is kind of good. And like, we were playing around, and at some point, like, you know, he was playing too rough, and I didn't realize how rough he actually. He didn't realize he was being rough. He was being scaring me. He was going from my friend to being like, just screaming, his teeth just like pounding on the ground. It got really scary. And all of a sudden, his parents came in and like they pulled us away and this and that, and it was really, you know, like it was like, okay, I don't believe this. I doubt this. I highly doubt this by this point. And then he says, like, the guy interviewing him said how you seem to have a lot of agency for like someone who is 7 just going off into the woods and hanging out with Bigfoots and all that. And he's just like, well, kids today we had more agency and we were much more like treated like people back then. Right now, kids are treated
I had a job.
Yeah, kids are treated like Pomeranians with trust funds. So like, okay, he's one of the, okay, oh, he's the kid, okay, yeah. Coming from the guy who apparently got his nuts grabbed by Mama Sasquatch, okay, sure, whatever. Like, all right. So it's at some point the government came in and split them up. There's 2 government agencies that came up like, why the Bigfoot? Why the Bigfoot? Because apparently at some point like the Bigfoots came back for vengeance or whatever, and the dad shot him like, look at this fucking ape, and you know they dissected him, and at some point the 2 different governments came in, the 2 different government factions came in. It was like draw, and it's like, and that's where they wiped my mind until I couldn't remember up until now. And all these drawings you're seeing, I did them myself. Like, I never drawn before. I'm like, sure, if you say so. All right. It was a good story to a point, but
yeah.
Okay.
If you take it at story face value, it could be. If that wasn't a Men in Black comic, you'd be like, yeah, that fucking works.
For some reason, whenever he and the Bigfoot wanted to hang out, though, the Bigfoot wanted to take his shirt off. So I'm okay, sure, man. That's a part I'd leave out, but okay.
Yeah, probably just some really hairy guy who let him in a van. And one of those moments, he just, in his 7-year-old mind, he pictured it like an ape man, but really it was just a really, really hairy dude.
Maybe I shouldn't joke around about it. Maybe he's like mentally covering up. It had to be a Bigfoot. It had to be a Bigfoot. It had to be.
This is the only way. Yeah, like, you know. I had this early gay experience at 7 years old, so it's better if I tell it as a Bigfoot story.
That's the only way. Like, let's see, how's the only way I can cope with this? I was saying, the baby Bigfoot, mom and dad Bigfoot came and took us. One of them got shot, caused a whole bunch of commotion among my family and my neighbors. Then the government came and mind wiped me. There we go. That's better.
Well, I think some of those guys too, they also they like build these stories in their minds so much that like because they want to come on these shows and, you know, talk about it and really expand things on it. You know, it's the classic, almost like it's the taking that fishing story that some guys got and just really running with it. You know what I mean? Like, the fish was this fucking big. It was a struggle. Like, you wouldn't believe it. It was like a, you know, megalodon out there in the fucking lake and everything. You know. Well, it's that just, you know, fucking like enhanced.
Yeah. They kind of always are that. I mean, I'm wrong. I still look forward to a good, like, our friend Cisco. He wasn't there for it, but he has a good Bigfoot story or a good Yeti story that, like, a friend of a friend passed down. And do I believe it's true? Yeah. No, I don't. No. But at the same time, it's a good story. So
I mean, it is in the Himalayas, so, you know, whatever it makes.
I'm not going anytime soon, so I gotta take his word on that.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, you know, yeah, you can have all kinds of stuff. And that's the thing. So the story wise, they're cool. It's like, it's the way I sort of feel about a lot of that kind of stuff is like, you know, like, it's like the same thing of like ghosts and paranormal stuff. Like, it's one of those ones, like, it maybe if there's, I leave it just a little bit open for, like, okay, if something does happen, like, maybe if there's a little bit of proof, sure. But, like, at the same time, I kind of go, let's be honest. It's like they make for fun stories, but that's about all they really are at the end of the day. There's probably a scientific explanation for all that stuff, and people get fucking weird and crazed out when they're, like, in dark areas and so on. Like, I hate to sort of say it, but, like, that stuff to me is, like, so kind of, I find it just really corny when they have, like, the TV shows and all that stuff for it.
Well, all the TV shows, they just barely, the thing is always just, we're going hunting for the Wendigo. Like, okay, we're going to go hunting for the Wendigo. Like, nah, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? You know, the camera's moving everywhere. Like, if you look right here, there's, like, something blurry at the very edge of the fucking screen that's clearly its hoof. You know, like, all right, sure. Like they never ever catch the shit. So, I don't know. I mean, it's our cryptids fun to look into and looking to hear stories and all that? Yeah, they're fun to look into. It's fun to also make stories about them. But granted, this is how every fucking monster movie starts. Like, you know, we're sitting here talking like, this is some stupid bullshit. And then all of a sudden we get a call like, so you boys think cryptids aren't real? I'm willing to pay an all-expense trip. You know, like, well, I'm a family man and I got this and that. And like, well, we got a podcast we got to run. So, well, okay, let's fucking go. You know, that's how it.
Yeah. No, that's why I leave that 1%. There's like that 1% chance, but 99% chance I'm like, no. But I just want to leave that 1%, like, you know what, maybe, but I really don't think ghosts and all that. I think that all that stuff's kind of, you know, let's be honest. I don't think the world's that interesting to have things like that. I think that's the things, people want things to be more interesting than they really are. So that's why stories are just like, you know, invented. Like when you really sit down and think about it, like, everything's kind of, you know, simple and to the point, and, you know, there's always a scientific explanation for it, and you know, yeah, there you go.
I'll be honest, I believe in aliens, but I think they're just kind of
aliens is a little bit different, because I feel like
shit, I would assume, like, I'm not trying to get all, like, you know, like, conspiratorial. Like, I don't believe this shit's real, and if it was, like, I'm not saying it clearly was aliens, or maybe I don't fucking know, but at the same time, I think this is shit that, like, if there are I got a feeling there's aliens out in the universe, but at the same time, I think they're looking down, like, what are they doing now? oh, fuck that. You know, I think that's what they're doing. And I don't think that like they're dropping like, hey, send the Mothman. Let's see how they fucking react. Oh, dude, send the Chupacabra. Let's fuck with some Mexicans. I don't think they're doing that. I don't think they're sending like their special eds out there, like just big booting about the UFO. Like, have fun. Just see what they do.
And that's probably what that guy in the Bigfoot story was. It's like he was kicked off from like his alien spaceship and then converted into a human, and then left here with some really goofy shit stories to like tell people on a fucking Bigfoot podcast.
I do like the idea that like because there's some people that believe Bigfoots can like jump dimensions and that's how they get around and disappear and whatever. I do like the idea of like them being just a bunch of like super advanced race, and then like they're actually also like the ones that come here and do the ooh, and they start clicking shit like, dude, let's fuck with these stupid primitive fucks. Oh. They start like just fucking with people, you know, freaking them out, and they disappear. Like, bro, did you see that shit? You know?
Fucking slapping a high five when they get back to Dimension X.
Doing like beer like keg stands and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel that's the only logical way to like is like something like that. But no, not saying
I think it's more logical than like, hey, I hung out with Bigfoot when I'm 7. That's just me. But
yeah, exactly. You know, if there's one thing that I've learned nowadays, it's like if you see any form of a monkey, you know, orangutan, anything out anywhere, you get the fuck away. I feel like it is not worth investigating it. Like a chimpanzee, fuck that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
shit, yeah.
No way. Like it's like that thing. We were born with like or you know, we grew up in like the 90s where like it was like, oh, you know, people just hang out with their fucking chimpanzee friend. It all works out. It's like no, it doesn't. I feel like it's that kind that like, you know, you see a fucking chimpanzee out there, you say your distance and you keep your gun trained on that thing. Like it is not worth finding out. It is not your friend.
That's the thing. It's kind of like, how many movies have just that whole like chimpanzee? Like, I feel like, I mean, wrong. If I see a shark in the water,
fucking Dunstan checks in or some shit like that.
Yeah. Well, like that. Like, well, here's the thing. Like, sharks get a really bad rap of it. And we're wrong. If I saw a shark in the water, I'm getting the fuck out. But the thing is, great whites, they get us confused. If they know
that's
what
it.
they are, they're like attacks on great whites or great white attacks. They're very rare. So the idea that like,
and technically it only happens to white people because the Aborigines in Australia figured this out, that all they have to do is cover themselves completely black and they could swim with the sharks. They don't notice it because they go out because they see the white belly of a seal. So if they see a white guy fall off his like surfboard, they're like, oh shit, it's a seal. And then they're like, oh, it tastes like shit. Like, oh man, what was this guy eating?
Or great whites are just self-hating whites. I don't know. One or the other. One or the other.
Oh man, this guy's on a fucking vegan diet. Oh, this is fucking hippies. Go back to Santa Cruz.
Like spits out the dreadlocks too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, it's a white guy with dreadlocks.
These are gonna get stuck in my teeth all fucking week. Fuck this shit, man.
At least my teeth grow out, so it's okay.
He goes swims next to some Aborigine. You see that fucking white asshole? Fuck that guy. You know. Anyway, what was I gonna say? There's something about before. Oh yeah. Sharks got the worst of it. Meanwhile, we're like, hey kids, go adopt a monkey. You'll be best friends. Like,
yeah.
This shit of how many movies with a kid and a monkey. And like, it took like, I think the first movie that I can think of that actually says this shit can go bad was Nope.
Yeah, because like I always knew about those stories and the fact that like that was my favorite part of that movie. Like I almost had a hard time paying attention to the rest of the movie because that part was so good that the rest of the movie almost seemed like it's like this is like a back burner story compared to like the fucking chimpanzee part.
We made contact with aliens, but fuck that. Let's talk about the fucking chimpanzee.
That's just fucking real.
No, but like that's like it was one of those things like you hear stories about that. Like, yeah, sure, okay. They probably just they probably like flash the picture and start going, start freaking the thing out or something. Then you realize that things are just like angry and territorial. So that's what even like Harry and the Hendersons fucking lie to me because I only heard like a handful of Bigfoot stories about them being like nice, and that's what I would hear most of my life. And then I started hearing other stuff and actual stories, and then I'm like, oh my God, you think about like chimpanzees and whatever and baboons. You think if that shit was fucking 8 feet tall and living in the woods, get fucked. No, thank you.
Yeah, Zach, or even gorillas and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, yeah, nope.
I think gorillas, I think they could obviously fuck you up, but I don't think they're as violent as chimpanzees. Listen, I don't think they are. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I think that if you get into their paddock and you fuck with them, but they're not doing territorial wars like chimpanzees. At least that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I think they actually are a little bit, well, it's like with all those ones too, you have to follow like the code of like the ape to like, you know what I mean? Like don't look up in the fucking eye, stay a certain distance, you know what I mean? Don't fucking give one of them a present and the other one's not.
Yeah.
And
I'm just wondering if like somehow
don't take one to Universal Studios. He's gonna see the fucking King Kong exhibit. He's gonna freak out.
He's gonna look at like the King Kong exhibit and just look over at you and start getting some fucking ideas. Like, no, we can't do that. He's just quiet, like, hey, Chim, we all good? He's just like nodding, just kind of looks at you the corner of his eye and just kind of goes back like he's just plotting. You're going to like the Jurassic Park restaurant. He's just eating quietly and like, hey, what happened to your knife? He's like pocketing it like you're just like walking around.
You don't realize that him seeing King Kong is like him seeing Roots. You know what I mean? He's like, I see what you fuckers did to me. You fucking drug my big brother fucking to the new world. Fucking set him in a fucking exhibit, and then when he broke free, you took a bunch of little planes and shot him down.
The fucking comparisons to make.
He's like, nobody explained this history to me yet. I like how the chimpanzee he's like talks. He's like, nobody explained this history yet. It's just in his mind, you just see him as like, just taking the knife, stick it in.
He's like Liam Neeson in his voice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like this inner monologue going on.
Like, yeah, that's why. Yeah, no. Pretty much, yeah. I don't trust chimps.
I don't trust the chimpanzees out there. It's just one of those ones, like that's the more you hear
about a chimpanzee, but still, that's
yeah. That's a dude's like mind being placed into a chimpanzee or whatever.
Spoilers.
So it's a little bit different, but it's one of those ones that's like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, if you were just out walking and there's all of a sudden a fucking chimpanzee fucking walks around the fucking corner of like a bill, you're like, no, get the fuck out of there. Get the fuck out of there.
You start seeing the thing that's patting the ground. We're good. Here. Just, yeah.
Not worth it. Too dangerous. Yeah.
I don't think my chances with a lion than a chimpanzee, because I think a lion might be like, I don't want to fucking chase right now. Depending on what it is. I think that if you go into a room and you close the door, a lion would be like, fuck that, and just walk away. Where a chimpanzee is like, I'm gonna get in there.
Yeah, though I think that's the difference between them is because other predators, like they only one go to like. The lion's only going to hunt you if, like, for some reason, like I couldn't find a good deer this week. You know what I mean? Like that's the only reason they're going to go after you. It's like just be like, I didn't really want to, but this economy's been down a little bit. You know what I mean? Some fucking liberals fucking like destroyed our deer population. I'm going to take this guy off his bike. That's what the lion's doing. Like, fuck it. Like, yeah, I know I'm going to be on the fucking 6 o'clock news, but I'm hungry. Where the chimpanzee is just gonna do fucking shit like no matter what, because it's like I want to fuck some shit up tonight.
Yeah,
I'm not even gonna eat you. That's the fucking weird shit. I'm just gonna fucking like rip your dick off and pull your fingers off. You know what I mean? And like fucking make like a fucking painting out of you just for no fucking reason. When I'm bored on a Tuesday,
throw sand in your corpse, a sign of defiance.
Yeah. Well, he won't even kill you. That's the worst part. Is like he'll just fucking leave you there mutilated, and then like take a shit on you and then like leave. Write his fucking name and like finger paint on you if that shit. Like
Shit, Boom Boom was here.
Yeah, he's fucking proud of his work. Whereas it's just like so many other predators. Like as I said, that they're almost more scared of you than you are of them. But the chimpanzee, it's just I don't know.
This is a mild spoiler, but I think it's kind of funny. In that Devolution book by Max Brooks, there's a part where they get attacked by they get like the first time the Bigfoot gets super, super aggressive, and they attack during the day, and they have to fight. They have to fight a few. They barely get out, but they accidentally end up killing one of them in the process. So they're like, okay, they're gonna come in later tonight. We got to plan for this or XYZ, whatever. So they're planning for it, and then they start doing the thing where they go out at night and they can hear the kind of like their war, like they're banging sticks. And then in that time, they all were prepping weapons and coming up with this whole game plan, this very elaborate plan, which is pretty cool. But to help rile them up, they were saving the body and they drag it out and they pulled it off. And their silence told us that they were not aware that we took this Bigfoot or whatever. And then, because earlier one of the Bigfoots broke into their garden, killed somebody and took a shit right in the garden. It's I wasn't sure if it just had to go or if it was a fuck you to me. But regardless, I was gonna get back at him. And then we pull the sheet off this Bigfoot. They get quiet. I pull my pants down. It's a lady saying this, and I piss right in his face, and then they just go rabid. They start charging it. Charging right into the trap. So there's just something funny about we're watching reading this scary story about Bigfoots and this and that and how shit's primal and everything, and then all of a sudden to get him, we pissed in that motherfucker's face.
That makes everybody angry. Nobody wants to get pissed in their face.
We had his corpse. We started stabbing him while they were watching us, and then we pissed on his face, and then they came running at us. It's that's a good, all right, that's pretty badass. That's a pretty fucking bad way to go.
So does that book kind of end where it's they almost do a Night of the Living Dead, they're all stuck in a house mixed with Home Alone traps?
Kind of. So it's it's sort of there's little hints of it. They know they're being there's hints there's something watching them, and she sees something out of the corner of her eye a few times when she goes jogging, and then at some point there's something getting in the trash and whatever, and then they have cameras. It's basically this big super fancy high tech little square out in the middle of the mountains, and then she comes down from she comes down one night and there's a Bigfoot right outside the door. She could barely see it, and then she runs upstairs, and then they watch a bunch of Bigfoots going through the trash and interacting, and she's able to distinguish this one, that must be the alpha, these must be babies, this whatever, so on and so on. And then they all kind of go out there, the people come together, they meet up. We're what the fuck is going on? And some people are clearly we must be all experienced. Shut the fuck up, scholar guy. And some people are being realistic, some people aren't. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of, I won't go and break down the whole story, but things kind of happen little from there. Then all of a sudden, at some point, they start throwing a bunch of rocks from the woods at them when they go out there and meet, and then they click a few times with the sticks to see if they get a reaction, and they do, and well, we don't know if we're saying hello or fuck you. We don't know what we're saying, but well, we did it. So, and then things just kind of happen little by little. It's a slow burn. It goes from oh, we wouldn't, there's one point where it just starts to build up more and more and more, and it's points at night they'll start howling to freak them out, and then at some point they start breaking in this person's house or that person's house. They kill somebody, and then it just goes crazy. One time where they're not expecting it, they attack in the middle of the day, and that's where shit just gets worse from there on in. So it becomes kind of a little bit of a Home Alone situation where they have elaborate traps they've planted, and they're even using some of the tech of the area. There's a part where the thing, she's in their house being chased by a Bigfoot, and the thing to kind of distract it is they have a playlist of grunge rock music, and Black Hole Sun comes playing, and it's screaming in the living room, trying to where are you, Chris Cornell? But so yeah.
I just love the Bigfoot's just oh, Chris Cornell. He just gets out his autograph book or something like that.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
They're so excited. Like, that's like, whoa, wow, I didn't realize that Bigfoot, they were just real big grunge rock fans. All you need to do is, pull out some, 90s artists, and, if it's Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell, and I assume there's a period piece book. They're all still there, got the Alice in Chains boys and all that kind of stuff, and they'll just sign some autographs, and the Bigfoots will be appeased.
It does take place in Washington, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so I got that kind of little element
right by Mount Rainier. So,
but oh yeah, that still sounds like an interesting one to check out, no matter what. It kind of makes me want to work more. I have that Bigfoot like story that I have just kind of sitting there. I wrote a bunch of stuff on and so on like that. That
it made me want to do like something Bigfoot oriented, but I gotta focus on the comic first. So, but this maybe some, I don't know, not Bigfoot, but horror oriented at least.
Yeah, as I said, I have this Bigfoot story that I've been working on for like literally, like it seems like realistically probably like almost like more than a decade. It's just kind of just always one of those back burner ones. You like throw some more ideas at it throughout time, because it literally goes back to back in the day when we were making like videos in school. Like I had like the idea back then, and then just kept like throwing stuff at it throughout time. But yeah, one of those ones. Sometimes I think about like maybe writing a book would be the way to go, because at least the upside to writing a book is that's like the ultimate like single person thing you can kind of do. You know what I mean? You don't have to really worry about getting all. You could slow put it together. It's like you just keep putting in a chapter here, chapter there, and next thing you know, the book's all complete and so on like that. And it's kind of nice, where like if you did it as a comic book, it almost felt like, well, that might take a long time if you're just by yourself. You know what I mean?
I just don't know if I have enough. Like I don't know if my narration or my vocabulary would be wide enough to really. But I guess you don't know till you try. I was thinking of something that'd be kind of cool. Of like, but I'm guarantee you'll say this. And like, there's 5 books already like that shit. 'Cause sometimes I'm afraid to just look into it because like that sounds like a cool idea. But then you like look into it and then you're like, oh, there's like 45 books like that already exist. Of course, I was thinking kind of like Blade Runner, but for werewolves, but at the same time, not doing that whole we work for the church or we have all these crazy gadgets or we're all badasses and we have crazy fights with them. A lot more like cold, slow, like we got a revolver, maybe a couple little like things they're allergic to. That's what we got. We got one shot, and then almost kind of like trying to talk, like going into a town. And it's kind of like a who's who. Like there's a werewolf here. We don't know who the werewolf is. We're trying to figure that out. And kind of like slow burn, kind of mystery, but almost kind of like very drab, very dreary. But the thing is, I guarantee you, if I was more versed in horror, there'd probably be like 5 others, like 100 other stories like that. But still,
well, this I always say this: the way you got to look at it is, even if there's something that might be similar, it's not going to be the same thing that you're going to write, no matter what. You know what I mean? You're still going to have your own spin. You're still going to have your own take. So that's why I feel like it's like never worry about like, oh, there might be somebody else out there that has something. They might have something similar, but I bet you it won't be the same thing if It's almost even better too just to not sort of research any of that stuff, because I feel like that might throw off the story. You go, oh, this person did this, that. Just like do like what you think. Just go from like your straight thing, write it all out. You know what I mean? And then there you go.
Yeah. I was thinking cool if it took place like in the 20s or some shit like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, you can pick your own like era to go with and so on like that. But
this is just me spitballing of just something I was rattling around the last few weeks. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, no, because sometimes I do think that's like there's something to be said about the novel writing. I mean, I know that like books is like probably, so it's like that market where like you're literally throwing it into the ocean because it's just so ginormous of how much stuff is out there. But as far as just like the creative process goes, it's like almost like the most purest of all of them, because you just have like one job: you just write. You don't do anything else. You just write. You write some more, and you write again. Not like we're like a comic book. I kind of hate to sort of say it. Writing's just one aspect, but then you got drawing and redrawing and coloring and whatever the heck else you need to do, and lettering and yada yada yada. But I feel like the writing is just kind of like straightforward, just like boop. And especially if you don't have to do any photographs or anything like that, it's kind of nice. Just like, yep, here we go. Just gonna write and let the story like unfold and go from there. And yeah, I don't know. I think that might be kind of the fun way to go about, like, especially with like the Bigfoot one or any of these other kind of stories and so on.
Well, if you do write it, let me know. Yeah. That's not like a shitty, like, well, let me know if you do. I just mean like so I can get it on like Kindle or something.
Yeah, I know. It's just that way about it. I've been doing that kind of thing. It's like in like kind of a limbo place, like what to do fucking next. It's like that kind of thing. Sometimes you finish a handful of projects and then you just kind of go, what do I do now? You know what I mean?
I know you're still working on Pizza Boys, right?
Yeah, I still got a little bit of that kind of going there. You know, after a while, sometimes you get a little bit kind of burnt on it and so on. I think the main thing I get burnt on is the fact of just doing things by myself. I think that like there's after a point, it's just like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like it's that one where it's just like, okay, let's just do this one more time and go through and so on. There, I think that's like the one that's been kind of getting me. Like the farther I kind of get, it's like it's just like this single man journey of some of those projects that kind of sucks in a weird way. Like I'm not gonna say it's like, you know, the end products sometimes are kind of cool, but like it's definitely not the same as being able to make like movies with friends or any of that kind of stuff where like, oh cool, we got a team together, you can bounce ideas off, you know what I mean? Like it's that weird thing that like, you know, like maybe if you're feeling kind of like, I'm not feeling it tonight, but then somebody else can bring you back up and so on like that. Like that's kind of nice. Like you kind of miss that like when you're just doing things by yourself. You know, it feels like you're in some weird like purgatory trapped in like, you know, like it's like you have to like self-influence yourself every single time and whatnot. But yeah, that's what's making like some of those ones like, man, it's like I'd like to do a project where I could like work with somebody else again. I feel like that's the thing I've been like, you know, especially like it's like making videos by yourself. Like making videos by yourself just feels like there's like, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that like we kind of grew up and like making everything kind of like together with like teams and so on like that. Like when you start doing it by yourself, you're like, there's something really fucking missing right here.
No, I understand. It was just the camaraderie and just the back and forth of it. But at the same time, like, for an update, I am getting closer with my comic, but I feel bad because I keep on, for years, when on this podcast with the comic, I'm like, no, really isn't what's done this time. But, like, I'm also probably, just so there's not, like, a huge gap between issues, I'm probably going to, like, not release issue 1 until issue 2 is at least halfway done. So there's not like this big long gap between them. So it gives me a little bit of room to catch up on whatever, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's already inked and drawn. It's just, I mean, well, I freelanced this one, but like I'm doing all the coloring and all the lettering myself. So but you know, it'll be here when it's here. You know, I'm not going to make a big thing of it. I will say, updated for it, the name of it is Badland Knox. So that's the new updated name for it. But I actually got to get going here soon. But this was a fun episode.
Yeah, no, probably about time to wrap it all up and everything like that, all those good things. But yeah, well, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.